welcome to episode 13 of the PEBAheads. We've got the whole crew back together this week, Michael, Jay, and myself. On this week's episode, we're going to discuss our final in-season Burrough update and also take some time to highlight some of the other top rookies around the league. And then we're going to kind of dive in with the playoff races before tonight's final sim. And then kind of close out the show with talking different playoff roster strategies and how we set our teams up for the playoffs. So with that, let me switch this over to the whole crew. How's it going, guys?
Good. How's it going?
Fantastic.
Definitely nice. Going to be an interesting sim tonight.
It's got me nervous. I think me and Scott or Sean are nervous.
Yeah.
While Jay gets to relax, but at least I don't. So I'm nervous because I just want to get first, and I'm sure you want the same, Sean.
Yeah.
I think we're fine as far as playoffs. I don't think we're, unless something absolutely catastrophic happens, which I know it's not like clinched yet. But I mean, things would have to go completely like reverse. I'd have to, I think, lose every single game. And I think Amsterdam would have to win every single game for it to somehow really screw either of us over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knock on wood, I'm comfortable getting into the playoffs, but I'd rather be in first than the wild card, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then you have that second overall seed in this side too. That kind of where we're battling for that. And then you've got London a game behind the two of us, so it's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, we're close on. I didn't realize I had the second best record in the IL right now. I mean, half a game, but
yeah,
because we only get two buys, right? So only the top two seeds get buys, so you can still get first and still not get the buy. Like so, it's Sean that you want to lose, Mike.
Sean.
Yeah, so it's gonna
Sean.
be.
So who are you playing tonight, Sean?
I've got Amsterdam and San Juan. So
okay, well,
that
hope you lose a bunch.
I mean, that opens up things depending on how that happens. I mean, that's gonna be really that series is gonna be. I mean, it's important for Amsterdam because they're a game out right now. But then you add in the fact of it's like I'm not sitting anybody.
Yeah, I mean, London's a game out or half a game out from taking back first, and I don't even know if Greg's even gotten the sim out. Probably not. Probably not even an export.
Right.
Whichever one's running it now, I don't know. I think he's been rotating. And then obviously London's only a game out from you. So yeah, it's a four team race to see who gets the second slot or second best record to hopefully get that bye. And then chaos for all the rest.
Yeah.
So see, there's a lot riding on tonight, at least in the IL.
Florida, we if we can win 5 out of the last 7, we can get the single season wins record. So that's our goal.
You're 8-2 in the last 10, and you got a 3-game win streak going. So there's a chance.
Yeah.
Who do you play tonight, Jay? Because I don't have that screen open.
We got Kentucky and Manchester in this sim. So
okay.
Normally this would be like, bench the starters and try to stay healthy, but I think we can get the wins record and have kind of a more historic season. We got to go for it.
And you could end Kentucky's season tonight.
Yeah.
Wow, you're true.
Like, yeah, I think Kentucky makes it either way. I like their chance.
I don't know.
It's gonna be tight. I mean, they're hot right now. They're definitely hot, but I mean, there's a lot riding on tonight's sim.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Amsterdam's closer than I thought.
Now, I'm trying to look at the SL. The SL's boring, so let's just skip them because they got nothing exciting going on over there. But yeah, it's all exciting in the IL tonight.
Yeah, it looks like the SL is pretty set.
Yeah,
pretty much. Once again, unless something catastrophic happens, then the Evas are going 2 years in a row with missing the playoffs. Aurora's obviously already been eliminated. Yeah, there's been some shakeup in the SL, but they don't really have a lot riding on tonight's sim, I don't think.
You can pull up the pennant chase, Sean.
Yeah, we'll start off with this topic since we've already kind of.
Yeah, sorry, we kind of deep dived into this and we're going out of order, but
Hey, it'll work. Let's see. All right, has it popped up there for you guys?
yes.
You
All
gotta
right.
click pennant chase. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. I always put the three of us in that corner, and I don't think it actually does it the right way or what I see, but well, at least it's there. All right, so pennant chase. So yeah, I mean, what's nice about this, and you were talking about it earlier, Jay, was that it actually breaks down what your percent chance of making the playoffs is versus when you're looking at the other screen and you're like, oh, I'm 3 games out. Well, what does that actually mean at this point? Like,
Yeah.
So, question for you guys, maybe educate me a little bit here. Just right there at the top, it says my magic number is 7. And yet, if you look at West Virginia, which is I think is the number 1 seed as far as wild cards, their magic number is like 1, I think. If you look at just the
Yeah. So that means
So
that
how-
their magic number to clinch a playoff spot is 1. Your magic
Okay.
number
to win the
to clinch the division is 7.
so,
And that's like a
Okay.
combination of wins and like your wins
Okay.
plus West
So-
Virginia losses.
like with mine, and so basically, yeah, your magic number to make the playoffs is probably you already have,
He's already in.
even though I don't think it. Yeah,
it doesn't
they
say
don't
anywhere
have
that
the
I've
name.
clinched,
Yeah,
but
I
I've
think-
essentially
If
clinched.
you look at pennant chase and you go to the top, it says 100%.
yeah, which is weird because it says 100 here, but then over here you would expect what is
You'd
it?
expect that it said I
Z or-
clinched.
Yeah,
The
like
E or
a
the
Z next to
Z or
him.
something.
Oh yeah. Well, because I think if you lose, what you've got.
I could technically lose and go to the wild card. That's the whole point. That's
Yeah.
But like looking over here in the SL for Rising Sun, there's a Z next to the ghost.
So they've clinched a
It's-
playoff spot.
It
Right?
shows that and what the odd thing is, then you go to Pennant Chase,
Oh, I see.
shows 100% playoff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we know. I mean, that's what's nice on this screen is that it actually is breaking down like
Yeah.
you are.
Key logic.
But yeah, I mean, I think what we got 79%, almost 80% for Kentucky, about 20% for Amsterdam.
Amsterdam's got a tough remaining schedule. Yeah, they got Sean, and then they got a nice easy end
Yeah,
because Andy's definitely building through the draft and taking his rebuild slow, and that's fine. But I mean, that's a good way for him to end.
yeah. And then yeah, London's got a pretty easy schedule the last week with Andy and then Havana there.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, I know my team's had trouble with San Juan.
same here. I've like broken even with them. I've never, for whatever reason, they always make the series difficult. I have the same thing with Hartford. For whatever reason, Hartford has made it difficult for me. They've definitely been on a bit of a run, so they've course corrected a bit, but yeah, they've always given me trouble this year as well.
Looks like West Virginia has a pretty favorable schedule.
Correct.
4-10. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
That's I think all the races though are just in our side, right?
Yeah, I think
Pretty
there's a
much.
seeding on the wild card side. I think down here between Tempe and Okinawa, there's a half game between the two of them. So you have a seeding, I guess, battle there. But
Yeah, but neither of them are going to move up into the second spot.
no, that's just basically who are you are you playing a wild card team or are you playing the third division winner type thing?
Yeah.
I guess the ghost can catch Toyama still too, right?
They
Uh,
could.
That
I
difference.
think
Yeah, the game and a
technically,
half back.
which you never
So-
know what'll happen
Yeah,
there.
so there's a little bit of a race there. Yeah.
Like, we know who the
And-
teams are, but like there can still be some shuffling on that side.
The interesting part there is they do face each other this sim. So
Oh wow.
game and a half is definitely achievable,
Yeah.
but it would be interesting to kind of look into their head to head and see what they're. Does that say that on here?
I don't think you can see that. Well, you can see it if you go to team versus team.
I think team versus
Yeah.
team for sure you can.
Go to SL.
Oh yeah, it's up there in the tab.
Yeah,
It's right above.
okay. There we go.
So it looks like the ghosts are 9-6 against Toyama right
So that spread has definitely made the division closer than what it could have been. So it'll be interesting to see. And it's like how many of those games were early on where the Wind Dancers were kind of struggling and turned it on and caught fire too. So I don't know. At least it is nice though, because it seems like most of the time the final sim of the year things are kind of already
now. Yeah.
This, yeah.
Gonna have.
Historically, it's been pretty boring. Yes.
At least this year we've got some drama.
But the battle
See.
for the first round bye.
Yeah.
That's what happens when teams try and not just
Take the long
tank on or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, who's got the number one pick right now? Arlington.
Good question. Arlington.
Arlington.
40 set. Yeah.
47.
I think that's pretty much probably set.
And then I think Mike brought up that point in the chat last week that Arlington, literally every single team, including their minor league teams, are in last place.
Yeah. That
By design or
might be the hardest thing
that
to
was
ever
that was the
do.
craziest thing because Matt Reed, the Okinawa chimed in and he's like, "That's incredible." I was like, "It's even more incredible when you consider like this is not by design."
yeah.
Right. Well, and then you would think with your big league club being bad for so long that your minor leagues would be somewhat competitive against everyone else. I
You
mean,
would think that.
that would be the first thought you would have, but then you get into everything else, and then it all starts coming together.
Yep.
We're just messing around, Justin.
Yes, the good thing is, maybe now kind of reset everything, and from here you move forward.
Build a plan.
Not look back in the past.
Yeah.
The good news too is
Got
it's
number one
kind of
pick.
hard to get worse than being
Yeah.
last in every single.
And even better news, you got the first overall pick.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that would be interesting to see. I know the draft pool has come up in conversations on Slack, and be
We'll have to
interesting.
look at it in the off season.
Yeah, that could be a good topic to look at. Let's switch over though to our original first topic of talking about checking in on our good old tried and true topic that we've talked about multiple times, the Burrough watch. Got them pulled up here, and it's kind of a good time to dive in a little bit on him and just kind of, it looks overall, I mean, he didn't have a bad year. Almost a 4, probably will finish as a close to 4 WAR player, but still, I would say, I mean, there's still room for growth, but you're desiring more when you pay that much for that type of player.
yeah, like if you're making 60 million, like for 4 WAR. But he ended up, I mean, solid season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can get to 20. He can get to 20, 30. right?
Yeah, he's had a good month of September. And really, I mean, since starting off pretty cold, each month his on base is going up. So it's one of those things where it's like at least there's
Yeah,
showing of
progression.
growth, and it's
Yeah.
not just like good month, bad month, like where you don't like he is getting better every month, but
And yeah, for I mean a rookie year, almost hitting 4 WAR. That's not too shabby when he's still got so much room for growth.
well, so this is something I wanted to ask you two because I messaged RJ earlier and it was right before we got on here, so it didn't give enough time to reply. But I'm assuming because of when Burrough signed, he's eligible to go to Winter Ball.
Yeah, I think that isn't that what they said last year that he or that we can now send.
Yeah, we could because what I'm wondering is if RJ sends him to Winter Ball and decides, oh, I'm going to do outfield range, you're basically giving like he's a center fielder with 10 range that also has above average center fielder hitting. Like, does that increase? Like, I know the part of WAR is based on your defense, so in the position you play, does that make him even more valuable, or do
It
you?
should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think because he's gonna improve in the other areas like naturally, right?
yeah.
You can see what his potentials are there.
But
So
do you wait for him? Well, I guess so. RJ, what? He's probably not looking to compete next year. So yeah, you
yeah, because the other thing
improve
is
him elsewhere.
yeah,
And then just let him naturally finish developing. It was just something I was thinking about. I know some people like doing arm or doing some doing other things, which those are all things you can debate on which one you want to do. But sorry, Chinook was flying over my house. It's like, what the heck is that noise? But yeah, it's just interesting. It's because yeah, you could always send him for the hitting ones, but if he's close anyway, so maybe it is worth boosting his range and seeing how that goes.
That's my plan for Washington in the offseason. Gonna focus on range, see if I can make him a little bit better of a center fielder. Because it's like I'm in the same boat. It's I have one. He's going to have just the 1 year of service, so he still falls into that bucket of being allowed to go. So should be interesting. We'll see what the roll of the dice does.
I think it's definitely worth considering. Like you have to obviously you have a certain amount of points you can use, and maybe there's some other player that you want to give that bigger boost. Divide your points up a different way or whatever. But it'll be interesting to see what he comes back with. So we'll have to
guys, gotta
get RJ on in the off season maybe and talk about that.
back it ourselves. See what he does.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, let's see. His contract, he's still $52 million man next year. So,
Yeah, gets cheaper though.
yep.
Cheaper every year.
Come down.
I mean, ideally, I would think you're hoping that by the time he's 27, he's
Worth what he's
worth
paid.
that or close to the 35 million a year. And then really,
Then you
if
gotta
he
replace
is,
him.
then you're getting a discount for the last couple. But
Basically like reverse arbitration.
yeah,
Next year we'll be complaining that his 6 WAR is still not worth $52 million.
yeah,
Yep.
He's improving, but
he
he's
is.
still not worth 52 million.
Yep. I'm curious. I mean, obviously, I have the scouting turned on for OSA, but it's interesting because if he does get that range boost, how close can he get war wise? I mean, I don't think he's going to get up to NOP levels, but I would think it would start aiding a little bit more than,
Well, Knopp's more of a complete outfielder as well.
yeah.
Yeah. But like, yeah, he's got a little bit more arm, a little bit like better outfield air. Like when he gets the ball, he catches it. But But I think Burrow will probably end up like an 8 WAR player. So like an
I mean,
MVP.
yeah, that would be very, very valuable if he can get up to that.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at some of the other. I know we've talked about some rookies. I know Don Washington, we've talked about it a couple times. We'll talk more about him too here, but let's kind of look at some of the we'll pull the SL up first. Some of the other top rookies. I know Duluth has one that's leading hitting war right now. This Dave Doherty. He's a guy that I know when I talked to Tim about him a couple times, he kind of came out of nowhere, got a a boost that he wasn't expecting that that's kind of got him to this point. But for a rookie player that can play the corner outfielder spots in first base, I think it's been a nice surprise for Duluth, and a large part of like why they've been successful this year, been able to take over that division.
Yep.
But yeah, like when you look at his numbers last year, double A or triple A for last year, he put up 34 home runs, 99 RBIs, and really his power numbers are pretty similar to what he did last year in triple A. So
It's good to see that he actually translated, because oftentimes you don't see that.
yeah. And guys taking a full year to start translating or start hitting too. So him jumping in and doing that, it's definitely been a good thing for Duluth.
I like my boy Robbie Rollins too. Considering he only got 50 games up there, like he looked good for a rookie.
Heck yeah.
I think he's what fourth in home runs. It looks like for rookies.
Yeah.
14.
And I would think that with him, how many games did he get? The 80.
It's like, let's see. I got 80.
Triple A.
Half a season.
Yeah, 79 starts, 82 games. I
Very
wonder if
true.
that just by him doing 82 games, if that just takes him out from being like.
I don't know how the rookie my pitcher, for example, Miguel Burrough doesn't count as a rookie this year because he had like 2 games played or 3 games played before this year. I don't know how.
Yeah, what's up with that?
OTP does it.
He doesn't count. I thought I saw it when I filtered this earlier. I thought he was on.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. For some reason, I thought
So I wonder if it's a
So he's never won Rookie of the Month, even though he's
5.3 WAR pitcher. Yeah. And probably if we look here at months, there's probably months where he had 1 month of 1.8 WAR. You would think he would have been
Rookie of the Month.
Rookie of the Month. I want to know who won Rookie of the Month for June now.
He literally got Pitcher of the Month in July, not Rookie of the Month. Or no, in June.
Wow. Huh. Oh yeah, I guess we can pull up his history here. Yeah, one-time pitcher of the month.
Who knows?
It will be interesting to see because once we get to playoffs, the voting, I think, begins, right?
Yeah.
So after the sim, assuming there's not a need for a 1-game playoff.
Yeah. Which, I mean, now that we kind of dug deeper into the Ghost and Toyoma situation, and then my situation with the Scottish and London, there could very well be a 1 game there. And then you add in West Virginia and you, Michael. There's 3 different scenarios there.
Hey,
I teased Jay about this beforehand, so I had to say it, but Burrough definitely is benefiting from the quality team around him.
it's that defense. It's that defense.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Hey, he's still my top pitcher this year, though. So I mean, is he?
I don't know how.
Actually, the reason why he's my fifth starter.
Oh, that could be. I
We
mean,
can rack up 23 wins when you're going against other number fives.
yeah, that definitely helps. Um, well, another one pitching wise is a guy who I think I picked for rookie of the year that
Bing
I'm
bong.
not going to say that I was incorrect by doing it, but I think it was more of how he was chosen to be used this year.
Yep.
This Ding Bong Zoo from Charleston, he looks like
He should have been.
not gonna
Yeah,
be an absolute stud. He already is one.
yeah.
I, we've kind of beat a dead horse with the Charleston thing before, but
I will no longer comment on Charleston.
I don't understand why you bring him up 20 games to play and then you send him back to AAA. Like he has a 3.05 ERA. I don't know. You always have the manipulation or whatever for extending a player's RBers, but if you're going to do that, in my opinion, you do it at the beginning of the year. You don't like bring a guy up and down multiple times throughout the year. But hey,
You can keep him down now. I got 3 games with
yeah, exactly.
3 or 4 games with Charleston, so stay down. I don't care.
Keep him down. You're
When rosters expand, I send this guy down.
Yes. I need those wins.
Yeah. Well, at least for his sake, his morale hasn't really. It doesn't seem like it has really been affected by sending him down. I've seen the opposite before, where guys think that they're ready for your big league team, and they clearly aren't. But then their morale starts going down because they think they are. And
yeah.
at least in this situation, he's not having to deal with that, so that's good. And I mean, hopefully for the Charleston fans' sake, moving forward, he'll be their ace for a long time. So let's see, who else we got here? We got any SL side for pitching? I think that there were guys that were decent. I think Dave Costello is one that stood out as a guy that might be a little bit above and beyond his peers pitching wise.
Yeah, we talked about him
We
earlier
talked about
in a
him.
different pod. Yeah.
He's got a lot of what you're looking for. Hopefully, probably a lot of hope hinges on this change up getting one more point, which it could. But just having a difference between having 2 really good pitches and then having 2 really good and then at least an average one kind of is a big deal. So
but we think Don Washington's got the rookie of the year locked up on that side, right?
I think so. Let's pull the batting leaders on that side for the IL.
Cozens, though.
Yeah,
That's Cousins. Cousins creeping. We haven't talked about him enough.
We talked about
no, talk about Washington and the history with that. He's having a great year. He's leading in WAR, but then you have Cozens from San Juan that 6.4 from your second base spot is a huge advantage when you can plug in somebody like that.
The interesting thing is, I know you have it on OSA. My scout likes him a little bit more, but OSA is not too thrilled about it. I mean, he doesn't look like the greatest player in the world. I mean, a 5 contact guy can go either way. He can hit 220, he can hit 280. You never know. So OSA is a little lackluster on him, and then he's still having the great year. And I guess you're gonna have to ask: is it gonna be consistent, or is he going to take a dump next year and hit 220?
Yeah,
and go nowhere. So it'll be interesting. He's been having a great year, and I know San Juan can use all the rookies that are doing well that he can get. But I think this is a guy that we just probably have not pointed out enough, and he's been on Washington's tail the entire year.
Yeah, he really has. And I mean, the 10-eye definitely is helping. Maybe with some of the other areas where it looks like he might be lacking, but I mean, throughout the minors, he's put up good numbers. So it looks like it's not just like hopefully for San Juan's sake, it's not a fluke. But the power definitely is what stands out to me compared to what his minor league numbers showed. Like,
yeah, that's a crazy jump to go from not hitting any home runs to all of a sudden 30+ home runs a year.
yeah,
He's on the Washington regiment of whatever steroids he took in the off season.
Actually, I think Burrough could push Washington too for that rookie of the year.
He
See,
could. He could. See, that's the thing. What do you choose?
24
Are you
now. 24.
are you happy with a pitcher as the rookie of the year as your choice? Or are you going to go with the hitter? Both prime positions, center field versus starting pitching. So I could literally see it going either way.
Yeah.
It's going to go by GM, whatever they vote. I mean, I know which way I'm going to vote, but
I know which way I'm gonna vote. Yeah,
I know which way I'm going to vote.
I'm voting
And
for
Jay's not going to be happy.
Sean's voting for Jake Bain. Last name only.
Yeah,
it's okay.
big fan. No, the thing that sets it apart for me is that I think WAR for pitching, there are flaws with how it's calculated.
Yeah, but it's not just WAR though. He leads the league in quality starts.
He's got a really good ERA.
He does.
ERA.
If it was rookie pitcher of the year, then
his whip is under one.
Then I'm voting for him. But when it
Well,
comes down, so is there a stat that, like, for offense, there's a stat called where's that? Let me pull it back up here. There's like called where did it go? There's like a win probably. Is there a win probability added for pitchers?
I think
there might be.
But even like if you look at like some of the more like ERA plus, he's the highest in the league this year at 170.
Oh, he is, but I mean, my thing is that he was in 32 games.
Yeah.
So how many? Well,
But
that's part of why I think. I mean, this is another controversial topic, but why pitchers should never even be considered for MVP. There's a thing called a Cy Young Award that is for you. I mean,
golden arm in our league.
There's very few players in the history of real baseball that would even be like that should even be considered about it. And I mean, we're talking like handful of guys that ever had a season where it would get over that gap of just being like 32 appearances out of a team's 162 games.
Playing 1/5 of the games.
Yeah. But I mean, like with Washington here, his win probability at is 3.95. Let me just take qualified players and show you how ridiculous that 3.95 is. I mean, you look at your Florida guys at 7. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then you got Knopp there too. And Nelson's there. But you're talking out of a rookie, like 3.95 is almost, I mean, Vito is a point better, which is a big deal for win probability added, but still, he's probably top 10 in that category as a rookie.
I think on the other side, I think he's on the other side. He's an MVP candidate.
He could be, yeah.
I think Burrough is a golden arm candidate. Either way,
I mean, he is seriously.
He is.
I mean, that's the thing. It's all going to come down, and let's be honest. Some of the voting is more of a fan voting, not than a real analytical voting. So
Like nobody's voting for the Dodgers for like
Well, like,
I want
I
to win the
mean,
World Series. And
Burrough is going to have, so people will look here and they'll say, oh, Goder, he's 7.3 WAR, he's better. But then when you look at it, what were the actual results? He had a 3.3 ERA. Well, what's Burrow's? It's like 2 something.
2.2.
like what's
So
their building independent?
we can talk about like predictions and all this stuff, but after a season's over, it doesn't matter what your underlying metrics were. Like, what were the actual results? Like,
Did you get it done? Did you get it done?
that's where it's interesting to me because it's like
The big thing though is Goder's got 100 more strikeouts
strikeouts.
than
So,
Burrow. Yeah.
So basically, Burrow has relied on he's like
On defense.
on
He's a
defense.
ground ball pitcher, yeah.
I wouldn't. So
There's nothing wrong with that though.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, real life guy. I mean, obviously Maddox is the one that people bring up all the time. I'm not saying Burrow is anywhere close to Maddox, but a guy like Kyle Hendricks in real life, he had way more control than Burrow does, but and his velocity is like I don't know, 10 miles an hour lower than that, but it's got a guy relying on their defense. You're hitting spots and you're relying on your defense. And maybe that doesn't work in the long term, like as you age and some of this other stuff starts going down. But we're not talking about long term. We're talking about one season and what they did. So yeah, it's gonna be
Let's put it this way. He may have my vote. Because I tend to start with ERA. I'm not like in the 3.33 for Goder right now. He's got the most strikeouts, but
I like ERA plus because it kind of normalizes everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of my first spot I look for.
Yeah.
So both of them will be very high on my ballot.
Yeah. 8.
All right, we're back on. Jay, I was gonna share my screen again because you had brought up ERA plus, and that's something that I like looking at too. And that's where for me it's telling. Like, I'm voting like right now, Burrow would be my guy that I'd be voting for.
Well,
If we were voting today.
Sure.
Just because
this is qualified players. Good.
yeah, this is all qualified players. At first I was like, that's where he stacks up. And I think for too often, like, strikeouts, they do matter, but like there's times where people like it's good like when you're talking about it during the season, I think. And when you're like evaluating, like predicting what future stuff is going to be. But
so here's the problem. We can sit here and look at it and we can agree that Burrow is probably worthy of the vote. You see the RWAR there, you see the ERA plus, you see him splattered across the screen in other categories, and other people are going to just take the WAR and they're going to vote for him. I had the same issue. No offense, Jay. I think it was 2 seasons ago. I don't think you were running it then 2 years ago. You weren't Florida's manager 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, this is my second season with Florida. So
yeah. So it was Trujillo, I thought was deserving because he had all the other metrics. He was in the lead, but he ended up losing to, I forget who was it, Stay or Trevino or whoever it was. Out of Florida.
Loopy Van Dam, right?
There you go, Loopy Van Dam. He ended up losing to Van Dam that year. And I thought, based on other numbers that we're talking about now, he was more deserving. But
yeah,
everyone just went straight to the WAR and they're like, "Ooh, click the WAR."
There's a very like dedicated sect of people that I call war horse. Whereas nothing matters. You just gotta get the WAR. Sort by WAR. That's it.
And this one right here is what stands out to me most about him. Is actually these two, that he's got 7 complete games and 4
That is impressive. That's very impressive.
It's not that he's just winning 23 games, but he's also going deep into games so that your bullpen is not getting taxed. So,
man, that Florida defense got to be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, look at the number 2 guy as your say with complete games there. So,
I like to write.
And you got Gatto there with 4. So really, I mean, shoot, you've got 17 just right there, complete game performances. That's crazy. All right, were there any other rookies that I missed when we were going through this?
I think those are the big ones. I think we hit on all of them at least a little bit.
Like you
It
said,
will definitely be an interesting vote because, to Jay's point, you very well could vote pitching. You don't look at the WAR. You actually look at impact, and
yeah,
I know that Washington's going to have the bigger WAR at the end of the year.
But also,
But
you gotta look,
Burrough
yeah, like look at how far New Jersey's come, right? And I would say Washington is probably the key part in that, right? Like
he's yeah definitely
I don't think anybody would have seen New Jersey ahead of West Virginia coming into the season.
yeah. There's other factors there as
Yeah,
well
yeah.
that
So like there's another piece of it. It's like, oh, like you can't really quantify anyway. And I think that's where Don Washington really kind of maybe starts to distance himself too.
well, especially when I lost Martinez, I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to replace that production, and Washington slotted himself in there. So that was completely unexpected. I mean, like I said, there's other pieces, certain other teams, with different people running it,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, there's other parts of it. But yeah, I was not expecting to be up at the first. I was definitely not expecting to do that much better than 500 when last year I was barely over 500.
you mean to tell us that you're not using child labor and violating multiple child labor laws to run your team?
No, not at all. Unless my dog can run the team for me, that's as far as the children go. So
Well, let's dive into the last topic today of just how you handle playoff rosters and your playoffs strategy in general when you're setting lineups, setting how you decide who, those final playoff roster slots, who they go to, how that works. I know, Jay, you've got probably the most recent experience. We all have playoff experience, so we'll start with you, Jay. What does Florida do when?
Yeah. So my strategy in OTP or yeah, PEBA is I obviously I shrink the rotation down to 4. And then I usually will drop a pitcher out of it, right? Because the way I'm looking at it is like, oh, like I'm getting an extra bullpen arm now. So I'm dropping my rotation down to 4. So it could be Burrough this year, it could be Azevedo that I'm gonna be moving to the bullpen, right? So for me, I cut a pitcher short, but I also rely very heavily, as you just saw in the complete games when you were looking, rely very heavily on my starting pitchers giving me strong innings. So my strategy is I kind of move a pitcher or two down to AAA or just leave them off the roster, right? And then we'll just kind of hopefully be able to rely on the starting pitch a little bit more than I do in the regular season. But then
well, I don't think you need to move them to AAA. It
yeah,
goes
yeah,
into
we
that
can just leave them off
weird,
the playoff roster. Yeah.
yeah, it goes into that weird setting where technically there's like 40 guys in your major leagues or something. All of a
Guys
sudden,
that you've never even played in the major leagues,
yeah,
just like they're eligible. David Price style.
Yeah,
that like weird hidden roster.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, like I usually will just like not carry over a pitcher that I had on my regular season roster, and then I do try to design my team too, where it's like there's a lot more micromanaging that has to happen in the playoffs. So it's like okay, like I if it comes down to 2 pitchers, I'll keep the lefty up and send the righty down, or leave the righty off. So I try to keep those things in mind, but in the end, it's like oh, I've got one less pitcher, but one more bullpen arm.
do you worry that? I know, like last year, you were upset with the bullpen performance that you had in the playoffs. Is this
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
you
Yeah,
like
last year I
are
think
worrying
that
about, like over tinkering with now? Now
yeah, I
that
think it's that, and I think last year was also just the roster decision. Like, I mean, this perfect topic for it, right? Like, I had a couple AAA arms that were ready for the majors, Leon Zamora and Jorge Gallegos, that I had just left off the roster because I didn't want to start their clock, and so I hadn't even had them on my 40. This year I called both of them up, so to have specifically to have those extra arms, because if you look back at the championship last year, like we had some leads going into the late innings and the bullpen didn't get it done. So I was a bit more aggressive this year with like, making sure that my best pitchers are actually going to be ready to pitch if I need them.
Definitely important. And do you pay to, like you mentioned about how you might keep a lefty over a righty if it's close. Do you weigh that when you set your rotation too?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So I always lock in on like Shinseki, for example. Like their entire lineup is just lefty, 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 lefty. So okay, if I see that, I'm either going, righty opener to get them to start that lineup and then bring in the lefty almost immediately, or I'm gonna keep, a second left-handed pitcher in my rotation there. But I'll also try to like I switch to like managing day by day lineups in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of leverage the matchups that you want to get there.
Yeah, it definitely helps, especially when if the other team you're playing is willing to post what they're going to do. Because
Yeah.
I know there's been, there's a setting you can check where if it does do the opposite, then it'll start the other guys. But
Yeah.
still relying on OOTP to do the right thing.
Yeah. What's your approach, Mike?
It's very similar. I mean, I definitely go down to the 4-man rotation. I try to, for the most part, have it balanced as far as the amount of arms that are righty versus lefty. I know my starting rotation is very lefty heavy to begin with. So I mean there's nothing really surprising there, but I do have more than enough righty arms in the bullpen to kind of help compensate for that. But I do go down to 4 starters. I have done both as far as keeping the extra arm then in the bullpen or actually dropping them down and going with an extra bat. I've done both in playoffs throughout my PEBA career, and it's kind of situational based on kind of what talent I have. If I'm feeling like right now I'm actually pretty confident in my bullpen one way or the other. So I would probably drop down and get another extra bat or a defender to help go into the playoffs. Just because I'm pretty confident all of my pitchers and relievers have had very solid years. So I'm less concerned there. So yeah, this year I'm probably going to drop down one arm and go with an extra bat because I could always use the extra defense.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say like that's a big thing too. Like that's almost like having another bullpen guy when you've got, a middle infield defender that's all nines or, tens and
yeah,
elevens out there. It's like, okay, that's, could be basically equivalent to having another reliever there because they're gonna save you some
yeah.
runs.
And I make sure to keep those guys down in AAA ready throughout the year, just in case come around this time I need to bring them up. So that's definitely probably the route that I'm going to end up going, and it's just because of the way that the team's built right now, and just kind of what I have available to me. And it'll see we'll see how it goes because obviously, like as we were talking about earlier, the seeding, everything. This sim is a huge sim in the IL because there's so many teams fighting for that second spot overall. So it'll be interesting. It might have an impact. I've had to actually going into this sim, I had to switch to the daily lineups because my catcher Ortega is so gassed, and for whatever reason the game doesn't want to take him out. It's just the manager just doesn't keep playing him, digging him into his grave. So I'm manually having to sit him.
Yeah, bench
Um,
player for 2 days.
yeah, just to give him a break to catch a breath because the game's clearly not going to do it. And I don't want him to somehow magically. I don't know if it's I don't normally get in these situations with the guy getting so tired. I don't know if it could potentially lead to an injury if the stupid manager just keeps playing him at like 5% freaking energy. I don't know. So I don't want to find out. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to touch on and get before I go in on this, Jay doesn't have to worry about it because he's always getting a bye in the first round. But okay, Michael, so if you end up being, even if you win your division, you still have a first round series. Do you still go with 4? in your rotation, or
Probably, yeah. I have that much faith in my bullpen right now. That I think I can get away with the 4.
see, that's
It
where
might
I
be.
think it gets interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, because I think that's where one thing where I've been in the past, I've not had a first round bye. So with that first series and the way that the games are structured, I've gone with 3, and my ace, I'm essentially getting like my top 2 pitchers pitching because of the way that the off days are scheduled.
Yeah, I'll
So
do
it-
that something like I'll check and see the meter, like are they ready to pitch again, and then I may skip the 4th guy, but
Yeah, it's definitely. I like how Mike breaks the sims up because you can have more of that decision. It's not just sim the whole entire series, and then
Right.
it definitely gives you a little bit more of a more flexibility or more time to tinker or overthink some of that stuff.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I did see that Greg did throw in an export.
Oh,
Grant's at it again.
I was gonna say Grant must be feeling better, or was it Greg that was not feeling better where he couldn't come over?
Grant.
Yeah,
In the final hour.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
that poor kid.
What's your
Probably
roster strategy, Sean?
I'm gonna order pizza and you come over here and set
It's
these
like
lineups.
have you seen the league, the Oracle in the league, where they
Yeah.
go to that kid to get fantasy football advice? That's
Yeah.
Grant.
Just think, Jay, you used to be that kid.
That was me. That was literally me. I mean, so what's the playoff roster plan in for the Scottish?
It's pretty similar to what you guys do. I reduce my pitching staff down and get an extra bat. The part that would be different would be that aspect of do I go 3 or 4 pitchers, and that really in the past has been based on the amount of games that are in a series. So if I'm in a best of 7, I'm thinking more 4. When it's 3 and 5, that's when I start getting into that. Do I really need 4?
Shrinking it up. Yeah. You can start a guy in short rest.
Yeah. The hard part for me is going to be Carl Ford's had such a good year. How, like, which do I throw him in the bullpen as like,
He's been a open girl here, right?
yeah, he's been a follower.
Follower. Yeah, he's been a follower all year, right?
But it's like, I mean, his ERA is 1.3, roughly lower than like Suarez. So even though Suarez has higher ratings, it might be one of those things where I decide throw Suarez in the bullpen and go with those 3. But I don't know. It's going to be
Suarez would be lethal. I mean, he's leading your team in strikeouts. He could be lethal as a bullpen guy.
Yeah, I mean, from a stopper perspective, he would be one that could possibly be a candidate for that. And there's times where I think he goes. I've tried to mess with how late he's going into games, see if that could possibly be what some of his struggles are, but I don't know. I think I was looking at this earlier today, and I didn't look at it on Suarez, but I want to pull it up since I have it. There's a stat in here. I think it's about opponent batting splits, where it shows so like Suarez, yeah, down here, like it breaks your innings down. And what's interesting is you can see like where they're getting hammered at. So like Suarez is doing fine. It's through that first go round of the order, even to the second. But it's almost like he's like getting gassed out in that third time through the order thing. So it's definitely something I'm going to be like looking at more. I think going into next year when it's a longer sample size. But I gotta unshare the screen so we can see the real manager.
Yeah, this is Mike's Grand.
This is my grand. She'll just come and slam on the keyboard and whatever she chooses, that'll be the lineup for the day.
That's great. What's that dog's name?
It's Odie
Odie.
or Odette. Odette.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's
She
great.
decided to sneak into the bedroom and kick the door open and see what the hell I'm doing. Now she's gonna go run around under the bed.
So I guess the other side of this, since we talked the pitching side, do you make any adjustments to your offensive, like your lineup or your order, or you feel like
Yeah.
pretty confident by this point?
Yeah, for the most part, me, like, the only thing that I'll change is, like, sometimes I'll set, like, somebody to start every X number of games, especially at catcher, to avoid kind of what Mike said about, him getting overworked or him getting too tired. In in the postseason, I'll just turn all those off to, like, if starter tired. And then, if I do see somebody that's getting a little bit below the energy I look for, I'll just change it in the day to day. But that's about it on my end as far as that aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes sense for me because you're gonna have the natural off days and as well. I mean, we get what two games, then you get an off day, 2 games, and an off day. So you get that built-in rest. You can make the adjustments on the fly in the daily lineups. Besides that, I don't think there's not too much of a strategy change. I do enough tweaking with my lineup throughout the year to test where everyone's going to really kind of land. That at this point, if it's not working, then there's something significantly wrong. But so pretty much what I'm going into the sim with is the way that I'm expecting the lineup to be. I'm not one of those teams like I know there's a bunch of the SL that are very diligent with their left hand, right hand platoons and all of that. I tend to swing for guys that can hit from both sides, and I don't want to deal with that type of micromanaging because I just don't feel it ends up working out the greatest anyway. But that's just me. So yeah, it's pretty simplistic, I would say, from the hitting side, other than potentially bringing up another bat as a defender. Yeah, there's not much tinkering done.
Yeah, the problem, like, I get the platoon can be used effectively in certain situations, and it also can be a good way to get like a guy a day off, like every once in a while, especially if they're a lefty, and then you can find a righty that can spell them every once in a while. But yeah, to your point, Michael, like in a playoff series, you're trusting at that point, you're trusting at some point the game to make the right pinch hit move to get your power guy, like a lefty that's on the bench, in the game. And it's like I've seen so many times where you're like waiting for that to happen and they don't ever use them. And it's like, and it doesn't matter what your settings are. I mean, you can go into strategy, and I'm not gonna pull it up now, but like
Crank the pinch hit
I'll
for
pull it
power.
up. I'll look at it here, but I think there's like a setting where you can like decide where pitch hitters come into a game, like how early they come in and different things like that. Might be on the actual individual player. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. But regardless, like you can, even then you can like have the guy be eligible to get pitch hit in like the 4th inning or whatever, and it still doesn't
Doesn't recognize it.
doesn't recognize it. Like you can knock a starter out of the game, and it's like, okay, well then as soon as that you could have a lefty as a starter and that guy gets knocked out, well, that first time that
Yeah.
the go through the lineup and it's a righty, then you should be pitch hitting right then. It's like you're not getting in our league, and not just our league, but in this any league format, you're not getting that ability to make that type of move. Where if you were in a single player game and like playing every game, you could be like, yep, bringing this guy in right now. So that's one area that's always challenging. And the other one for me is like sitting there seeing like some of the bullpen choices in the playoffs, where it's just like,
Yeah.
how
That's why,
are you?
like, if I can ride my starters longer, like,
Yeah.
at least I know what I'm getting there. It's not gonna like choose somebody that got buried as a middle reliever for some insane reason.
Yeah. Well, and then you'll have guys where it's like you'll have a string of lefties coming through, and they won't bring the lefty in the game.
Yeah.
They'll bring a righty in because, ratings wise, they're a better player. And it's like, well, you're not factoring in the ratings against the 3 people that are gonna face. Like,
See, this is another one of the reasons why I tend to more often than not drop a pitcher and bring in another defender or something, because the game's going to screw it up somehow with the bullpen anyway.
you know,
And I just why give him an extra arm that's probably not used to doing in the row or the bullpen
Yep.
to screw that up with.
yeah. One thing I've seen people. So there's like a theory that I've seen that people are so worried about how the game will use relievers that they'll just set everyone as a middle reliever, and then the game defaults basically to who the best reliever is, and it will bring that person in.
I've seen that, but I think it's like I don't know.
But I don't know if
Besides that,
it's
like
yeah.
I don't know if it uses like the manager's preference, where it's like, oh, sometimes your manager will look at the last like 90 days or the last year's performance or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen those videos too, but I don't really understand, kind of how they're saying that the game decides who the best pitcher is.
I mean, a part of it, like for me, it's like, okay, I get the idea. However, my starter goes out in the 3rd inning and I'm down 5 runs already. I'm not bringing in my top reliever to relieve them.
The next day. Yeah.
Like, I would rather, chalk this game up for a loss or try to chip away at it if I was like managing it real time, rather than wasting my top relievers innings when, if it's the last game of the season, then it doesn't matter. You use everybody. But
Right.
like if it's early on in a series, then you'd kind of just be like, okay, I'm not going to blow my elite guys innings here when I don't have a chance to win this. Like, so like I get the theory, but I think there's definitely flaws to it. I think there's still benefits of having some sort of roles. I know Jay, like I think you and I both use the double stopper method instead of doing a closer and then 2 setup guy type of thing.
Right.
I think there's still merit of doing the 2 setup guy and closer role, but it matters like how your team's made up and what your relievers are. Because if you have,
I said like I was gonna say it really comes down to like the depth of your bullpen.
Yeah.
Like, for how you want to do that.
If you've got like a elite reliever, but their stamina is a 1, then you can't really use them as a. You could use them as a stopper, but you're gonna have to limit the amount of batters they face because shutting down for an inning is different than.
Yeah, but they drain so fast too on it. So it's like, oh, even if you bring somebody in for like 2 outs and they do it, it's like, oh, okay, like they just lost, 15% on their stamina or 20% of their stamina.
Yeah.
To do that. So it's kind of tough when you've got those low stamina types.
I think this probably warrants a deeper dive at another time as well, because I go deep into like specialists and tweaking of innings, everything. So yeah, I think this is a much deeper conversation that we could probably have on actual bullpen setups and everything.
And for a season, I think there's a season versus playoff. Like there's a totally different mindset that you could have on how that works. And yeah, that could be a totally whole nother one. I know my other league, I had a elite relief pitcher, a lefty. He's on like a bunch of my successful teams, but then like 37, 38 years old, and his rating started going down, but he was still elite against lefties. And I'm like, I'm putting him as a specialist. I'm not going to use him against righties. But I'm still like you get attached sometimes to some players, and it's like,
it's a curse. It happens.
I say that, but I ended up waiving him mid-season because I had a guy at AAA that was righty and lefty. I'm like, I'm not wasting this spot anymore. Someone else can take him. But yeah, no, I think it would warrant it. Definitely. I think during the off season, it would be a good topic that we can bring up because full season, how you set up a bullpen, there's so many ways to tackle it.
Well, you also have the stretches of a long long games. We talked about that previously, where you get the 18, 20 games in a row. I mean,
Yep.
that all starts to fluctuate everything the way you set it up.
Yeah. I've seen people go with like 2 long men in their bullpen, and I'm told, like, I've never done that, but I would like to know what the thought process is, because I've just
I feel like the game automates that pretty often.
Yeah,
To and
because
it's
like
like,
for me,
why?
my long men, it seems like they don't actually ever get enough work, because they're only coming in if there's a blowout, essentially. And
That, and you'll have like a middle reliever then that goes 2.5, 3 innings anyway, and it's like, what is the game doing?
yeah, what's
I
my
don't
long
get the
man for?
settings.
Yeah. So now it'll be interesting to see. I think geez, Jay. Jeez, Jay. All
Yeah,
right.
I was saying the same thing. I'm getting low on time here.
Yeah, no, we're good. We covered a lot of topics. So we'll good luck to you both tonight. I know Jay,
Yes, another
But
20
Mike,
something
easy.
minutes.
Mike a little
Yeah.
bit less good luck than me, though, right? With that,
Yeah.
right? The way it is. But I
Yes.
how about not good luck, but like here's just everybody staying healthy heading to the
Yes.
playoffs.
Fair enough. All right,
Sounds
guys.
good.
See you later.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.